Ago, Midasi, Ago, Midasi. That is West African Fonte today. Just saying, may we have your attention, please. And thank you very much. We are so happy on behalf of the All African People's Revolutionary Party. We greet you on this Sunday. We are so glad that you're here with us today, especially today. And the title of our presentation today is, it should actually read, "The 4th of July is a damn lie," but you all understand what we're saying here. And we are so happy that you decided to come and spend this hour with us today, especially today. Now, today would have been my parents' 62nd wedding anniversary. And it would have been, we're Africans, we're African family. So even though Shukura's mother and I have been divorced for going on 30 years, her family is still my family. My family is still her family, and that will never change. And so Shukura's grandfather, her mother's father, today is his birthday, as well as his wedding anniversary. So we celebrate them, our ancestors, my parents, and Shukura's grandfather, because we would not be here were it not for them. But aside from that, we are here to talk about the hypocrisy of this day today. So we are so glad that you came here to join us. We hope you're able to achieve your highest level of mental, physical, and spiritual health today. We really hope that you're able to do that. And we want to start, as we always do, and we'll be talking about this obviously a lot over the next hour, in talking about respect for the indigenous people of the Western Hemisphere and their righteous and justifiable fight to regain their land back. This is their land, all these lands in the Americas, and they are fighting for these lands back. They are not fighting for anything except that. That's what they want. That's what they need, and that's what they're going to get. And we intend to do everything we possibly can to help them achieve that objective, because for them to achieve that objective is the right thing to happen. And it also means the enemy that we are also fighting is weaker. So one unified socialist Africa helps the indigenous people, and America's being returned to the indigenous people of the Western Hemisphere helps the African people. And all of that helps all of the rest of humanity. So we stand in complete and uncompromising solidarity with them today. And we will talk about that a lot throughout the next hour. And also, of course, we stand with our African ancestors who, on this day, the ancestors have been speaking to me powerfully all day from the moment I woke up. In fact, they woke me up this morning. They were like, "Get up, you got work to do today. We got a message to deliver." And I so much appreciate that, because I recognize that I could not live and breathe were it not for our African ancestors who fought diligently. And they were not confused. They knew they weren't Americans. They know we're not Americans today. And they understand that. And they woke me up this morning. "African, wake up. You got work to do today. This is not your place of identity. You got work. We got to wake our people up." So I'm so thankful for our ancestors for providing that spirit. I'm full of spirit right now because of them. And I'm so thankful for their sacrifice. And all we can hope to do is humbly pay it back. And that's what we humbly attempt to do over this next 56 or 7 so odd minutes. So we thank you for joining us today while we talk about this major contradiction, why it exists, and hopefully provide you, well, not hopefully, we certainly will, provide you with some talking points for how to talk to your family and friends about why you think that this day is representative of everything that's wrong on the planet Earth. And that's what we're here to do today. So we thank you for joining us so that we can do that. And we start, as we always do, with our introductions. Ahjamu Umi is my name. So for those that want to issue death threats and do all the things you always do, at least get the spelling. I told somebody, like, if you're going to threaten me, at least get the spelling of my name right, so you know exactly who you're talking to. Like, don't put some respect on the spelling So Ahjamu Umi, longtime organizer, All African People's Revolutionary Party, honored to have celebrated my 37th year working diligently in this organization. And I doubt it, but I hope I have another 37 years to work in this organization. However long I have, that's what I'm going to do, because I believe that this organization has identified the solution to the problems that African people face in over 120 countries all over the world. And joining me, as always, for our 71st consecutive week doing this is my amazing daughter, Shukura, who, as it says on the screen, grew up in the All African People's Revolutionary Party's Young Pioneer Institute and has made the decision to participate as an adult in the A-APRP, as well as finishing her PhD so she can use her studies to further advance our people's forward progress. So just honored to be able to share this and many spaces with her. We share many spaces, and just happy and honored and couldn't be prouder of her for the work that she does and the work that we do together. And again, the All African People's Revolutionary Party has an objective. We have a vision, we have a North Star, and that is Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism. All of Africa, all Africans. And the definition of Pan-Africanism is one unified socialist Africa, the total liberation and unification of Africa under scientific socialism. That's our objective. And the book you see on the right, the Handbook of Revolutionary Warfare by our founder, Kwame Nkrumah, he wrote that book, and that book serves as our strategic guide for how we're going to create revolutionary Pan-Africanism, one unified socialist Africa. And in the book, Nkrumah talks about the need to unite all of the revolutionary Pan-African political formations on the ground in Africa who unite around our objective of one unified socialist Africa. So we're talking about millions of people when we say this, that we work with every day to achieve this objective. You see the logos there, the Pan-Africanist Congress, PAC of Azania, or what you call by the colonial name South Africa, by the PAIGC, the African Party for the Independence of Guinea-Bissau. In Guinea-Bissau, the Democratic Party of Guinea in Guinea, AZAPO, the Azanian People's Organization, Amilcar Cabral Ideological School in Nigeria, Zimbabwe Movement for Pan-African Socialists, Pan-African Union of Sierra Leone, the Revolutionary Socialist League of Kenya, and many, many other organizations that we work with on a consistent basis to achieve revolutionary Pan-Africanism. So we are glad that you're here, and we have chapters all over the world and relationships with other liberation movements who are also fighting against this beast, this birthday beast today. And united, we will bring this beast down. And hopefully our day of victory will come on July 4th. That would be a fitting conclusion to this 529-year nightmare for the majority of people on the planet Earth. So we are so glad you're here for us to talk today about the 4th of July is a damn lie. Thank you for joining us today. And to get us started on the topic, as always, we will start out with Shukura.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good day, good evening, good morning, depending on where you are in the world. Thank you so much for joining us. And I echo everything my dad said. It's really important to continue to show gratitude, we feel, to you all, because we understand that, you know, your time is valuable and there's so many other things that you could be doing. But I also am grateful that you feel that you want to join us each weekend, because that tells us that our words and our resources are moving you and challenging you and causing you to think in a different way. And that's a benefit, because it's a reciprocation of us all being able to understand that we really do all have a collective role to play, and how we decide what kind of world we want to live in starting today and going on with tomorrow. And so part of that means being able to acknowledge, show gratitude, and then also hopefully figuring out how to collect as many tools as possible so that we can move from thinking and planning to action and praxis, right? So that's what we hope to have be the final outcome. And we are grateful that you've chosen to see us fit to do that in terms of leading us into the victory that we need to be in. And as we always say, even if it's not with the All African People's Revolutionary Party, we hope that maybe you join us on the weekends and you're a part of another organization that is still working collectively to make conditions better for oppressed people. I'm really excited to talk to you today about this topic, and I know I've said that before, but this topic in particular is always a special phenomenon, if you will. Like, I'm always interested in studying it and understanding it more, which requires me to unpack, and I look forward to unpacking with you. So come along with me on this journey. The 13 colonies were correctly named because they represented nothing except the beginning of colonization of indigenous lands. Many Europeans came from Europe, and they brought with them Africans that they stole from Africa to work for free as chattel slaves, providing the labor that produced the seed money to finance the Industrial Revolution. This so-called Declaration of Independence, or July 4th, was 100% about consolidating this land theft and exploitation of the African masses. And their so-called, quote, founding fathers never tried to hide this, end quote. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and many of them owned Africans as property. I'll never forget when I started middle school and my dad took me to Target, because for those of you that are familiar with the middle school in the United States, usually that means you have a locker of some type, and that also means you have a physical fitness class. And so usually if you have physical fitness, you have to purchase your PE uniform and have a locker, literally, to be able to console and keep all your items in it so that you can change out of your clothes and do what you need to do for PE and get back to the rest of your courses. So we had to go to the store so I could buy a lock. And I remember picking out the first lock I saw, which for the most part is produced by a company called Master, if you're familiar with that. And so I picked that up, and my dad was like, I don't want you to have that lock. And I was like, what's wrong? It's just a combination lock. Like, this is what we need. We can get this and then go on with the other errands that we need to run today. And he said, you don't know the history of Master Lock? Well, of course I didn't, because I was 11 and I had yet to research and be a part of work study and do all these things that we're asking you to do. I wasn't involved in an organization except for YPI at the time. So I had a lot to learn, but he said Master was the name of the same organization that provides shackles for the same slaves that they kidnapped from different parts of Africa. So just really, really interesting that you think about that. And so along those same conversation, I asked him, I said, so, you know, like, how did people understand, like, whose slaves belonged to who? Because slaves were considered property. And he said, well, they took out insurance policies on them. So a lot of the same insurance companies that we give our money to every month, whether it's renter's insurance, home insurance, automobile insurance, all of those companies and systems came about because of slavery. If you ever visit Memphis, and if you ever have a chance to go to the Lorraine Motel, AKA the Civil Rights Museum, which of course we know is where Dr. King was assassinated, you will walk in and first they ask you to, you know, pay your money and do all of that. And then you walk into this room that is supposed to target and talk about how Africans first started their voyage by being slaves. The room is really a disservice, if you ask me. Like, if you come to Memphis, let's talk one-on-one and I'll take you to a real museum that talks about the transatlantic slave trade, because the Lorraine Motel does not do a good job of that. But one thing it does do, and this is always my favorite part when I go, and I literally spend the most amount of time at this particular nameplate, is you walk around the room and you're looking at all these different artifacts, and there's drumming music that's playing in the background. And so you're very clear that this is the room that's supposed to talk to you the most about Africans before it starts to separatize it and make it more of Africans in America, which is another problem I have at the museum, because we're all Africans, according to Kwame Nkrumah. But there's one plate that literally says, it's very simple and it's very small and you have to pay attention to see it, but it literally says, America was founded on the backs of slaves. And I think that that's really important, because there was no need for an insurance company before property of slaves. There was no need for a company to have shackles unless you needed to lock someone up, because you wouldn't put shackles on an animal, right? Unless you have shackles on them in a different way. And even then, it doesn't mean the same, because you're not going to need as many shackles for an animal as you would need for a boatload of human beings, right? So we have to really kind of think about this and just really start to unpack the products that you have in your residence right now, the product that you might be using to take notes as I speak. Just think about all these different things that we're using. And I'm no better than you. I have cobalt in my phone that we know is stolen from the Congo. So we're all doing things that contribute to the oppression of people. The question becomes, how are we going to now turn around and use those same resources to now give back to some of those people who are oppressed, and more importantly, to help Africa become free? That's what we need to think about. So we understand that George Washington and Thomas Jefferson owned slaves. We understand that they considered them as property. And we also understand that many of them owned Africans as property, and they used to buy and tell our ancestors, they would buy and exchange our ancestors for a keg of molasses or sugar or other trinkets. The Constitution, the result of the Declaration of Independence, never acknowledged Africans or indigenous people or even European women identifying people as human beings. None of those group of people were considered human beings. And the amendments, like the much talked about Second Amendment, was only written to ensure the systemic European terror against the African and indigenous masses would be protected by law. I want us to think about when these documents were written. So the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Emancipation Proclamation, when were they written? And who were they written for? Now think about, if you are an African, how you always were considered a resource. You were never considered a part of the document's participating population. Like, the document wasn't targeting you, is what I'm trying to say. The document was never supposed to make your life better. You were a means to an end, and you still are to some extent. And so we have to understand the Emancipation, the Constitution, all of these documents were written because they saw us as ways to make their lives better. It was never for us to be included in that conversation. If you think about how the Congress became to be assembled, if you think about the House of Representatives, everything that literally builds this country, as I just said, started with slavery, which means it started with kidnapping, raping, killing African people and stealing from indigenous people and claiming a piece of land that was never yours to claim from the beginning, which is all based on lies and mistruths. None of it is based on humanity. None of it is based on love or life or any of the things that have helped us to get to this point. So we have to keep reminding ourselves of that, which is why I don't understand why a person of African descent would celebrate the same holiday that literally celebrates killing you and taking you from your natural home. And I just want us to think about that for a minute. This country and everything that it represents is not benefiting you because your race, your class, or maybe even your gender has gotten in the way of you being beneficial from that. When my grandmother was living, she used to always say, we would, talk about her about different exposures of racism that we had experienced. And I was too young to really talk to her about that, but she was very wise beyond her words. And I'll never forget when she used to say, my dad would make a comment and say, oh, so-and-so said this to me. And, that really bothered me because he was a white supremacist and he said X, Y, and Z. And then she would sit back and say, well, he figured you should be out somewhere picking cotton. And I never understood, when I was younger, I never understood why she would say it in such a calming, demeaning connotation and tone if you study communication analysis. But she really meant, like, we're not supposed to do anything but be slaves. That was all we were ever supposed to do. And the fact that we have evolved just a tiny bit is a threat and cannot be accepted, which is why we are now considered targets and literal death threats, literal targets. And so I'll never forget her saying that, because she wanted to make it very clear, well, they figure you should be out picking cotton. They don't think that you should be out trying to get an education to advance the masses of people. They don't think that you should be giving weekly seminars because you're trying to help people become organized. That's not what you're supposed to do. That's not what you were bred to do. That's not what you were kidnapped to do. You're going outside of the lines. You're not supposed to do that, which is why you become a threat. So what happened to Malcolm? He was a threat. What happened to Martin? He was a threat. What happened to any other organizer or ancestor that may no longer be with us? They were threats and they needed to be taken out. So we have to continue just thinking about that. And let's take away the emotion that is connected with that. Let's just understand that white supremacy is not about emotion. It's about understanding that Europeans are the center. So if we understand that, then we need to understand that there's no way that Africans could ever be the center of why America values them, because we don't benefit from white supremacy. We promote it and we suffer from it, but we do not benefit from it. So we have to understand that and stop trying to protect something that was never ours to begin with in terms of protecting, because we were taken from what we should be protecting. Next slide, please. Okay, so the period immediately after the Civil War concluded in this country in 1865 saw abolitionists push for the Freedmen's Bureau, which implemented a number of programs designed to eliminate the disparities of 350 years of chattel slavery. 350 years. Still, during this period, the conditions of the indigenous people were not designed to benefit from the Freedmen's Bureau, and the Bureau itself was effectively destroyed with the 1898 Plessy versus Ferguson Supreme Court decision that institutionalized, legalized discrimination, i.e. Jim Crow. This period saw that the Ku Klux Klan rise to such a level of prominence in this country that even to this day, there are many monuments, parks, or even schools and or institutions within schools named after Klansmen. I'll give you an example. Nathan Bedford Forest Park is 2 hours and 16 minutes from me here in Memphis, Tennessee. And I didn't realize until I started doing research that the Memphis chapter of the Ku Klux Klan was actually very prominent, very, very prominent in the contribution of the overall Southern Grand Wizard board, whatever you call it, because I really don't know. And so just understanding that this guy has a park named after him that is still fully functional in 2021. As I said, 2 hours and 16 minutes from where I'm located. So we just have to understand that and think about that. I challenge you, how many of us can name schools that were named after good, humane people? There's not too many names that we can mention, right? But we can definitely be here all day listing names of bad people who killed and raped and murdered people. Yeah, we all have gone to schools or gone to community centers or parks that were named after those people. So again, just trying to think about that. And again, if you celebrate the 4th of July, like just think about that. That's the same country that names people who killed people after community centers. Why would you want to support that? Why would you want to be behind something like that? Ask yourself, why are you celebrating the fact that this person is known for killing thousands of indigenous people or killing thousands of other people from a different race that we don't know about, but yet they have a statue, a community center, and a park named after them? There's something seriously wrong with that if we idolize murders and rapists, but we disown and dishonor people who are actually trying to save our lives and make the world a better place because they're pushing against colonialism or pushing against systems of oppression. The Homestead Act consolidated the theft of land from the indigenous people and the continued industrialization and development of capitalism, which further cemented the bourgeoisie ruling classes and the dominance of capitalism all over the world. How many of you have actually sang or read the entire Star Spangled Banner song? There's 4 verses, which I didn't know, and I started doing some research after talking to my dad yesterday. And in verse 3, it literally speaks to protecting slavery and indicates prevention of slavery ending or a fatal ending for anyone who fights against slavery. So, quote, no refuge could save the harrowing and slave from the terror of flight or the gloom of the grave. Now, you can unpack that however you want, and you're welcome to look it up if you disagree with me, but that clearly indicates not only are we not ending slavery, but if you try to get away from that, because you are in fact a slave, there will be repercussions. And just understand there's nothing you can do to stop it. And that's written in the original Star Spangled Banner. Now, I talked to my dad about it, and he explained that they can't continue to have those lyrics in there because so many of us African people would be outraged if we knew that was really what it was. But all you have to do is Google it. It's right there. I found it. So it's not like it's hidden from us. It's just that we just need to do some more unpacking. We need to seriously take a look at why we want to protect this country so bad that has done nothing to help us, but actually made our lives so much worse. And we need to be okay with the fact that we're going to be uncomfortable as we start to uncover a lot of hidden things that are right there in plain sight. We just need to figure out how to look for them in a different strategic way. Asante Sana.
Thank you, Shukura. Thank you very much. And before we start talking about the absurdity of today, I just want to acknowledge some of the comments that I'm able to see. And I apologize, like we're still trying to figure out how to follow on YouTube. So if you want to comment on YouTube, we're getting there. So bear with us, please be patient. But we want to acknowledge our comrade Miko from the American Indian Movement, who has greeted us from the Alahi Spirit Runners. And we so appreciate that, because we want to make it clear, if we haven't already, that when you come at us and you're talking about being American or you're talking about these lands belonging to you, The way we see that is you're insulting us like we're indigenous people. We're Africans, but we take that as much of an insult because we have seen the suffering of these folks. We have seen how they have suffered defending us. We know where we could go when we escaped the slave plantations. We couldn't come to Walmart. We weren't able to go to the Dodger Stadium when we escaped slavery. The only place we could go is where the indigenous people lived. I don't care what you think you know. That's irrefutable. So because we know that, when you speak against them and their righteous fight, you are speaking against me. I have no more anger about that than if you say something against my mama Africa. It's the same thing to me. So we very much appreciate that. And we want to acknowledge Comrade Nate up in Oregon, who commented death to the United Snakes and burn it all down. And we couldn't agree more. We could not agree more. So, you know, this show here is not for the light of heart or people that and then Comrade Manning said, burning a flag as we speak. Yeah, you should burn as many of them as you possibly can today. I already took care of that earlier. I get up, the ancestors woke me up. I told y'all, they said, you got to get up and do work. And they said, first thing you need to do is burn that flag, get your spirit in the right place. So I did that this morning. I did that out front. People walked by and I looked there, I dared them to say something to me. So that's what we got to do. It started my day off on a positive way. So we appreciate that. We definitely appreciate that and respect the fact that people recognize that and are not, you know, being intimidated by all of the reactionary propaganda. So let's talk quickly about the absurdity of today, of what this ridiculous day represents. And the first point we want to make is that there can't be any celebrating of an empire. And it doesn't matter, like you have to, if you, those of you that study psychology, you know this, right? Like if they establish a day and say, this is our day of celebration, you can come and barbecue and do whatever you want. And you could say as much as you want, I'm not doing it for that celebration. I have my own celebration over here. You could say that to yourself as much as you want. The bottom line is that somewhere in your subconsciousness, you are acknowledging what they're putting the day out there to represent. Because if that was not true, you would not do it on that day. You'd find another day to do it. And I understand people, you know, take advantage of the days they have off, but you would still find some, if you were really intentional about separating what you're doing from what these capitalists have put out there, you would be driven to find a different way to express that. And so the fact that you're doing the same thing, and oftentimes people do exactly the same thing. They have the same food, same kind of, you know, every process, everything as to what these people said, but then they're trying to tell you, oh, I'm doing something different. No, you're not. You're just doing the same thing, but you're just trying to do it in a way that you can feel comfortable doing it. And that doesn't make you a bad person, but what it does do is it continues to perpetuate the lie. And the lie is that this is a day that represents some sort of freedom and advancement for humanity, when nothing about this country represents any of that. It never has, and it never will. This is an empire that has been built and is maintained on keeping the majority of people on earth subjugated. That is the bottom line, and it's irrefutable. So there's no celebration today. There's no celebration. This is a day of mourning. That's what it is. For justice-seeking people, it's a day of mourning. And if you want to utilize, because everybody mourns differently. So if your process of mourning is to go in the mountains and camp all weekend, you know, with you and your loved ones, that's fine. But you can't compromise at all with what these people are doing, because one specter of compromise, and before you know it, they'll have you doing sparklers with red, white, and blue on and singing their national anthem. They'll have you doing that. So no day of celebration today. And the type of character of anyone that doesn't confront these contradictions up front, not subtle. Now, well, I don't want to say nothing because I don't want anybody to get upset. I don't want to be controversial. You were born into the controversy. The controversy has always been here and it will always be here. So how come, what's the problem with standing up and just pointing it out? What is the issue with that? The issue is too many of us are cowards. That's all. We don't want to be placed in a situation where we're uncomfortable. We'll permit anything to happen as long as nothing happens that makes us uncomfortable. And that's the problem. That's why we're in the situation we're in today. And what we're coming to tell you is that if you're not constantly uncomfortable, then you ain't doing nothing. If you are not constantly uncomfortable, then you ain't doing nothing. Why do you say that, Ahjamu? Because this is a backward and corrupt society. So if you're trying to say you're a person of justice, how the hell are you going to be comfortable all the time? That's an oxymoron. That's a contradiction. In a society that's backward, that's based on human suffering, if you're a person of justice, you have got to be uncomfortable all the time. And I'm saying that to you because I spend 99% of my life uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable all the time. I'm always dealing with people slandering me. I'm always dealing with people trying to sabotage. I'm always dealing with that. And you know what? I'm comfortable with that because I recognize that the minute those people accept who I am, that's the day I need to die. Because I'm not doing anything to make myself worth being here. I'm certainly not honoring these ancestors that have been talking to me all day. And I know the way I'm talking scares some of you because you're scared. You're scared of everything. Everything scares you. You know, but that's okay. You got to learn to deal with that and work through it and stop acting like you're dealing with it and working through it and actually do it. And you'll feel so much better. A lot of the depression people go through is because that's a part of your psychology upset with another part of your psychology because you don't have the courage to stand up and do what's right. And the minute you do that, you will feel so much better. It's like Frantz Fanon talked about. It's a liberating psychological process. So practice that. Practice standing up. Practice that. You should have a percentage of people that disagree with you all the time. If you're priding yourself on never having any conflict, you ain't worth a damn. You should always have conflict. In this society, you should always have conflict. And you should be looking for the conflict. I'm not trying to say you should walk down the street cussing people out, but what I am saying is that you should be looking to challenge the contradictions in this society. You have to do that. If you're not doing that, you're just not a person worthy of respect, period. That's just all there is to it. You cannot hesitate in doing that. You have to do that. Well, I don't know how I would do that. Well, then you got work to do to get yourself to a point where you feel comfortable doing that. You will feel so much better. I'm telling you, people, I'm tired of people telling me, man, you look so good for your age. Man, you're in great shape. You look so black, don't crack. Like I'm just sitting here and how I live my life has absolutely nothing to do with any of that. That's an insult to me because I work hard. I work hard to prepare my mind. I work hard to prepare my spirit. I work hard to prepare my body. And I do that because I know I have to have the stamina to wage war against a system that's waging war against us. And that is the bottom line. And days like today, all they do for me is remind me of everything I just said and make sure that I remember that I have to do the work to prepare myself for that. So you have to do that too. And, you know, it's important that these contradictions that exist, like I said, they just, because they go unchallenged, they explain a lot of the problems people have in this society, psychological problems, spiritual problems. They explain, like, how are you going to be healthy in a society that values money more than people? That's not possible for that to happen. How are you going to be healthy in a society that justifies stealing the land of millions of people? and subjugating those people, murdering them and brutalizing them. That's not possible. Every step you take in this hemisphere, you're sloshing in the blood of the indigenous people. So that's why you're not well mentally. That is the reason you're not well, because you're walking around acting like that didn't happen. And a part of you knows that that's not true, that it did happen. And so there's a conflict inside of you. And that's, I would argue, is the main source of the contradiction happening within everybody in this society. Every day when you wake up and you look at your cell phone, you are acknowledging the exploitation and oppression of African people. Every day that you do that, everything that happens in this country, you're acknowledging that. And if there isn't something going on to confront that, then that's why you're having all the challenges that you have. That's why that stuff happens. And when I say confront it, I mean confront it in a serious way. We're not talking about European people who want to come in the ghetto and organize. You can't organize in the ghetto. That's your ego telling you that. Why you gonna organize in the ghetto? You don't know anything about it. You don't know nothing about it. Just because you saw it out your car windows, you don't know nothing about it. And besides, we don't need you organizing our people, because all you're gonna do is get in our way. But there is something you can do. There's so many white people out here that need organization. You need to be doing that. Because guess what? Nobody else is doing that except the military and the police and the neo-Nazis and the white supremacist militia groups. So you should be doing that. Stop bothering us and go organize your own people. We will help you do that. That's what you need to do. So I think if we start doing all of these things, a lot of the ills that we face, we would find that they're not nearly as prevalent in our lives as they are today. You cannot live a lie and it not begin to impact you first psychologically and spiritually, and then physically it'll impact you. And that's what's happening to a large extent. That's the basis of it. I understand capitalism, chemicals, giving people cancer. I get all that. But I'm saying even before all of that, the foundation is a lie. And we're walking around acting like that's not true. And then we're wondering why we're so dysfunctional. That's the reason. Because once you establish that lie and it functions every day like it's not a lie, then what you're doing is you're establishing that that's the norm. You're normalizing the lie. So by doing that, we create this atmosphere where telling a lie is okay, because the very fabric of this society is based on that. So there's nothing wrong with telling a lie. So everything becomes a lie. So if you want to understand the phenomenon of politicians, for example, right? Like Trump is a manifestation of the history of this country. Everything's a lie. So of course he can get up and lie every day and people believe it. If they believe that this is a free and democratic country, of course, how is it hard for you to connect those dots? That's what that is. That's it. That's all it is. If you can tell yourself that, well, everything is, yeah, white supremacy is bad, patriarchy is bad, but I'm white, I'm a white man, and I have it just as bad as everyone else. That's a lie. That's a lie. It's not true. As a man, I have it better than most women and women identifying people, most people who don't identify as men. I have it better than them. And I need to acknowledge that. And I need to fight against that. And if you're resisting that on any level, then that's why you're having all the dysfunction. I wake up in the morning, I'll be 60 years old next year. I don't have a single pain in my body, nothing. I have no pain. Those of you half my age, I feel better than you in the morning. And that'll always be like that because I don't have all that. That's why that happens, because the lie permeates your spirit, your mind, and your body. And if we want to get better, we got to confront that lie. That's what we got to do. So continuing on the absurdity, we know people have never been free here. We know this. So we have got to disrupt that lie. We can't just well, that's them saying that over there. No, they're teaching that to our children every day in school. They're reiterating that all day today on Sunday in every church, mosque, synagogue, or whatever. That's being reiterated. So it's being institutionalized in the very fabric of people's consciousness. So you can't ignore it. It's not going to go away based on that. Look at where we are. That's clearly not an effective tactic. You know, we have to acknowledge that white supremacy, patriarchy, etc., are dominant here. And the only way we're going to get rid of them is to organize. So you can read 1,000 books on white supremacy, 1,000 additional books on patriarchy, 1,000 additional books on capitalism, 1,000 additional books on homophobia. So you can read 4,000 books sitting in your house by yourself. That does absolutely nothing to solve the problem. So you don't need to have any reason to be sitting up there thinking, well, I'm not a part of, no, you're a big part of the problem, because you got all this knowledge and you're so selfish, you won't even make a commitment to try to share it with somebody so we can build capacity. And then you're gonna die and the 4,000 books die with you. And then we gotta start all over. So none of us are in a position to celebrate anything right now. That's absurd. None of us are in a position to take any days off and to say, well, we have to, I'm sorry, y'all, I get so sick of hearing that. I'm burnt out. You haven't done anything. How are you burnt out? Like, what are you burnt out for? You know, we had ancestors that dealt with more trauma in 15 minutes than you dealt with your whole life, and you're burnt out. And they continued on because they knew they had to create a pathway for you to exist, and you're burnt out. I mean, if that's what's going on, you need to do some work on yourself. That's not legitimate, you all. We can't let you get away with that. You haven't done anything. I had a few years ago, there was a male abuser that was trying to function in the party. And I told him, I didn't approach it right. I've crossed this before. You know, I told him, you know, I was going to do something to him physically. That's not the proper way. I understand that now. That's why I wrote the book. I understand that. But back then, that is what it is. And so when I told him that, he didn't want me to jump on him. So I told him he had to go. And so he was telling me, you doing me like this as much as I've done for the party. Now, he had been in the work study process about a year. He's telling me this. I've been in 30 years at the time. And I said, you haven't done nothing for the party. Who the hell are you? What have you done? You haven't done anything. If you work every day for the rest of your life for the people, you will not repay the debt that you owe. What the hell you think you are talking about? All you've done is harm our reputation by being an abuser. And then that's when he got up and backed away because I was getting real close. But my point is that we cannot sit on our egos and think that we've done something at this point. I am telling you, my work is just beginning. It's just beginning right now. And most people don't do half of what I do. So you need to be just beginning to get started. That's very important. And another reason why we need to understand that is because this society has never been based on the values that it claims to represent. So it's our responsibility to make sure people know that so that they can prepare themselves to fight for the type of societies that we need. There's been no wars fought here for no freedom and democracy. I don't care if you were in the military. I get it, right? I get it. It's a corrupt society. So when people are in the military, they have to justify that, find some way to justify it. So days like today, they can find some way to feel better about themselves. But what I'm trying to say underneath all of that is if we address the fundamental problem, people won't feel the need to do that. The reason why people have to do that is because they're operating on this dysfunctional foundation. And so people have to do dysfunctional things like, okay, I was in the Marine Corps and I killed people that I don't even know why I killed them. And I did stuff, I don't even know why I did it, but I feel so bad about myself as a human being. Okay, July 4th, I get to bask in this for at least one day. That's what people are doing. That is so dysfunctional. And that's not going to solve the problem. We have to solve the problem by telling the truth. The US military is a mercenary force. That's what it is. They bribe you to fight for them. And the reason why they have to bribe you is because they're not fighting for anything that inspires the spirit of humanity. And they know that. So they have to bribe you with college credits, with home loan credits, with job credits, and all the other stuff that they bribe you if you're in the US military. They have to bribe you. That's what that is. They have to do that because they can't tell you, well, we need you to fight because you're fighting for justice, because that's a lie. And they know that that's a lie and it won't stand up for you. So they get you that way. So we have to acknowledge that. Like, I signed up to be a mercenary because I couldn't get another job. There's nothing wrong with acknowledging that. That's the truth. That's what it is. That's why you got in there. Especially if you're African, indigenous, poor European, whatever, poor Asian. That's why you joined that, because you didn't have any other options. It's not like Vietnam where they had to turn away children in the 60s that wanted to volunteer to fight against American imperialism. They weren't paying. They had no job credits, no college credits in Vietnam. Those were people who were standing up because they loved their people, they loved humanity, and they were not going to sit around and let nobody steal their country from them. That's patriotism, you all. That's what patriotism looks like. We don't know anything about that here because there's no such thing. This is all based in lies. You got to bribe people to fight. They're mercenaries. And every war they fought has been a mercenary war. And every war they'll fight will be a mercenary war. There's nothing else to it. That's why they have to have all this nonsense to justify it. That's why they pay the National Basketball Association, the National Football League, Major League Baseball, Major League Soccer, the WNBA. That's why they pay all those leagues millions of dollars to do all that pomp and circumstance, because it's a propaganda campaign to win people over. And they do it so consistently that most people, think about your family and friends. Most of your people never even think to ask, what does the national anthem have to do with a basketball game? They never even think of that because it's so ingrained. They just program remote control to accept it, that that's the right thing to do. And if that's the case, then the next step is you're going to accept the messaging. Well, we're fighting for justice. They even got military commercials on now where they're even making it seem like the military is a social justice organization. Have y'all seen those commercials where they talking about you going to these countries and you're helping the people? That is absolute nonsense. Absolute nonsense. And so we have to expose that. Nobody else is going to do it except us. And if you're not involved in work designed to expose that, then you're not contributing to addressing the problem. It doesn't do anybody good if you just read about it and you know it and you feel so confident and egotistical because you know something in your head. What good is that doing anybody? We got to get this, we got to organize and get this word out to people, millions of people. So we got to do that work. There's no freedom and democracy here. That is nothing at all. That is a big, bold-faced lie. Everything about this society is based on lies. Lies. You should go outside right now, walk down the street, walk where there's a crowd of people and just lies, 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 lies. And I guarantee you, most people will not be confused about what you're referencing because everybody knows this stuff is a lie. It's just that people are benefiting, or at least they think they have the potential to benefit, or they want to have the potential to benefit. So people have made the decision, for the most part, I'm just not going to deal with that right now. I'm going to just try to do what I can to protect myself. That's not, I get that, but it's unacceptable. We have to move to a higher level than that. That's our responsibility. And especially the oppressed people of the planet, because we have absolutely no obligation to uphold anything these people are doing. No obligation to uphold that. You know, I went out today. Every year this day, I wear my shirt, African in America with 3 Ks. And that shirt, of all the shirts I have, I get a lot of attention with a lot of clothes with my political messaging, but that one gets the most attention. And, you know, I'm a soldier to the word. I've worn that shirt to work before, you know, because I ain't an incognito revolutionary. I'm a revolutionary, period. So I wear it wherever I go. So today I had it on and this guy was like, yeah, but, you know, you have to admit America has done some good things. And I said, well, you know, Ted Bundy, I'm sure did some good things, right? You're against Osama bin Laden. I'm sure if you asked his kids, he did some good things. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the dominant narrative of history. And the dominant narrative is that this country is a terrorist nation. It always has been, and it always will be. And we're going to come out today and we're going to expose that. I said, you're standing on stolen land. Well, who was it stolen from? I said, well, you know who it was stolen from. I said, I'm not even going to insult myself by having that conversation with you. You know who it was stolen from. I said, and if you don't know, you'll figure it out when they get it back. You'll figure it out when they get it back, because they're going to get it back, and you'll figure it out. And then when you're paddling your canoe across the Atlantic Ocean back to Europe, you can think about it then, because you'll have plenty of time to think about it, and you can figure it out then. And that's what I told him. And it made me feel good to say that, because the ancestors told me this morning, you got to talk to people like that. You got to let people know. You can't be afraid to tell the truth. You got to stand up and tell people what's going on here. So, you know, the obvious contradiction, there's a misspelling there. I apologize for that. But the obvious contradiction is the capitalist ruling classes. Look, you all, they understand everything that I've said. Everything Shukura said, and everything you came on this call with. They understand all of that. They know that this situation is bankrupt. They are not confused. They know that they built an empire based on oppressing people. They are not confused. They know this is not freedom and democracy. They know that. The ruling class people in the capitalist classes know this. That's why they create the myth of white supremacy. That's for you and me. That's not for them. They know it's not true. They understand it clearly. So their job is to stay on top. And because these people don't have morals, then they don't care about what they've created. The only thing that matters to them is staying on top. So they'll use any tactic to do that. They don't care if they kill millions. They sleep fine at night doing that. That's who you're dealing with. So that's who they approach this, is that they have to do something by any means necessary to maintain their dominant control over the planet Earth. That's their approach. And you're on the other side of the fence, and your approach is going to be, well, I'll just, you know, think about it sometime, and then the rest of the time I'll just get high. And you think you're going to win against them? You think that somehow you're going to come out on top against them? And your approach is 5% against 100%. That's why we're in the situation we're in. You all, that is the reason. Right there. We got to understand who we're dealing with and what it's going to take to rise up to defeat them. So, you know, there's no neutrality, there's no safety, there's no sanity based on not taking a clear position against these injustices that July 4th represents. Now, I'm getting prepared to go on a book tour for the book. I'm going to be in several states this month. And what's happening is that marginalized communities are the communities that are reaching out, and they want training on security techniques. LGBTQ communities, women communities, colonized people. That's who, you know, reaches out, and they want to have this because they feel unsafe. And so a part of my training, it's not like, yeah, I can show them, and many of you could too, you know, how to defend themselves hand to hand. We can show them a lot more than that. But that's not the main basis of it. The main basis of it is the first part that I present to them. Let's talk about why it's unsafe for you here. Because of this foundation and the lies of this foundation. So white supremacy is a myth designed to justify oppression against millions of people. So they have to perpetuate this myth. And so since they have to perpetuate this myth, that means they have to blame you for everything. And so because they have to blame you, that's why you're not safe. So we have to acknowledge that to correct it. And so that's an important thing, is that we can't be neutral. There's no safety. you know, there's no sanity. We have to stand up. And if you say, man, he's talking so crazy. Yeah, yeah. I mean, whatever it takes to get the message across. And that's what we're trying to do. And I just want to quickly acknowledge, we got some wonderful comments here. Comrade Mannon, thank you, comrades. I needed this. Thank you for reaffirming our struggle. Absolutely, absolutely, family. That's what we have to do, is lift each other up. Look, there is absolutely, I don't even know you, and I'm telling you, there is nothing wrong with you. Whatever problems you're having in your life, they're not your fault. And that goes for everybody hearing this. Stop letting these people tell you there's something wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. You're recognizing that there's a problem. That confirms there's nothing wrong with you. The people that there's something wrong with, the people walking around here trying to act like everything's okay, those are the insane people. There is nothing wrong with you. You're beautiful, just the way you are. Keep being and doing what you're doing. And Nate is talking about the military commercials. Yes, it's disgraceful. Like they'll have you believe that, because they're just trying to get people to join them. That's what they have to do. They have to lie to people to get people to join, because nobody wants to do it. There's no gung-ho except the white supremacists. Everybody else is just doing it out of necessity. So they got to lie to create that atmosphere. Like, that's despicable. You know, so all these days like today, all that stuff is designed to do is perpetuate that lie so they can get away with that. And the only reason why imperialism, only reason why it's dominant is because we have not been effective at getting people the necessary information and getting them engaged to organize on a consistent basis against it, because clearly we have the truth on our side. So as long as we have the truth, it should not be difficult for us to win. But the problem is that we are not able to effectively spread the truth to enough people. That is the fundamental problem. And the reason why we're not able to do that is because we don't have enough people engaged in this process. And a lot of the people that are engaged in it are fumbling around on BS levels and not really committed to doing serious work. And that's who we need. We need to step it up. That's what's missing, you all. So again, as always, our message is, if you're in an organization, praises to you for doing that, but you got to get serious about the work. Like, don't let every little obstacle stop you from organizing. Like, I get that from people all the time. Well, they don't want to do this. The people don't want to do that. Okay, figure out a way to work through it. You got to come into that with the attitude that nothing is going to stop us from figuring this out. That's your responsibility. Otherwise, you're not serious. So, and then those of you not in organization, you gotta get involved, and you gotta build political education as a part of your organization. And to help you, going back to my book, A Guide for Organizing Defense Against White Supremacist, Patriarchal, and Fascist Violence, on the right there, encourage you to get it. Next Sunday, Shukura and I are going to be talking about how to build a political education program, how you do it, the brick by brick process for how you do it. So we want to invite you back next Sunday from 4 to 5. We have the sites there. As always, we encourage you to look at them. APRP-intl.org, abetterworld.me. If you want to join the All African People's Revolutionary Party, which we strongly encourage you to do, abetterworld.me. We ask you to donate. We have to spend a lot of money to do all the work we do. We ask you to contribute what you can. Help us do that. Some of y'all, especially if you're not in an organization, you got $50. You got $20. I know you got it because you went to the weed store and just spent that much there at the weed store. So you'll do that, but you won't give $5 to end the pit talking about, I support African people. Okay, put your behind where your mouth is and donate to the cause. Help us out. Help us do the work. And definitely support hoodcommunist.org. Outstanding site. We are working diligently to publish revolutionary African literature. And so we ask you to support all of these, all of our podcasts that are listed below there. The Pontula one on Monday, From the East Coast of the Snakes Forward Ever, which is on Spotify. Revolutionary African Women, the last week of the month. Our comrades in New Mexico, I forget to change that. It's 12 o'clock Mountain Time, 11 o'clock Pacific Time. And of course, we're here Sunday. We please invite you to buy the book. People continue to buy it. I'm humbled by that, humbled by it. I got some royalties the other day I use it. I give $50 here. Somebody can't pay their rent. $50 there. Somebody's got medical expenses. That's what I use the royalties to do. And I support all of that that way. So when you buy books, that's where the money's going. And we appreciate it. And we will work with you to build capacity around the book. So we hope you get it. A Guide for Organizing Defense Against White Supremacist, Patriarchal, and Fascist Violence. We have a comment from Brandon. Complying with the status quo without questioning it is delusional. We could not agree with you more, family. Thank you for saying that. Our comrade Linton, who's always so supportive of our work, and we appreciate you very much. African, saying forward to victory, build the A-APRP. We appreciate that so very much. It means so much to us. We appreciate each and every one of you. Remember, don't let these people tell you that you don't have any value. You have. If they're telling you that, it's because you have so much value, and we appreciate your value, and we need you. You're going to be a critical part of our fight to get free. So leave this right now and feel up about yourself. Celebrate that. That's what you need to celebrate, that we're going to win. We're going to organize. We're going to wipe these people out. And I don't care how much fireworks they put off tonight. That has nothing to do with the fact that their days are numbered. They know it, we know it, and they know we know it. And they know we know that they know it. So victory is on the horizon for us. Stay strong, you all. Forward ever, backwards never. Always stay clever in any endeavor. And capitalism, y'all already know, it's got to go. Smash patriarchy. Have a great rest of your Sunday afternoon. Stay strong. One unified, socialist Africa.